KTRH News Time is 7:46, and joining us right now is Second Lieutenant Blake Davenport. He is from the Woodlands, just recently returned from Iraq. Lieutenant, you've been back today, would be a week, is that right?
Yeah, yes, sir, that is correct.
It is a pleasure to have you on Houston's Morning News, Lieutenant, and I just want to welcome you home. It's interesting, you and I have been talking, and I have to share this with the audience. You and I have been talking, and I talked about how humble soldiers are, and you said that you can tell me with great certainty that soldiers cringe sometimes when civilians call them heroes or thank them for their service when they are out in public. Explain why.
Well, it's just, as we discussed, that, you know, we really function as a team, and you always hear that kind of as a cliche. But for each member of the team, you know, for my driver, his name is Stephen Hoffmaster. He's actually from Aldine, Houston, Texas kid. You know, he has a responsibility. I have responsibilities. The guy who's up in our gun hatch has responsibilities. Everybody has their defined role. And if one of those guys doesn't do his task to the best of his ability, then we're all going to suffer. And so, you know, I think for the most part, when we feel like, when somebody says, hey, congratulations, you know, thank you for your service, you're a hero, it's kind of, you cringe because it's, you know, it's not just me, it's a team effort. You know, those guys, some kid who's 18 who's risking everything, you know, in my mind, he's the hero, not me. And I think that, and for those same guys, they'll look at that and say, you know, I'm just doing my job. It's just not that big a deal. I think that individual attention just kind of against what we preach and what we teach each other, that it's a team effort.
Lieutenant, what should I do if I saw you out and you were in your fatigues, if you were in uniform? Can I come up and shake your hand? I mean, what should I say? I just feel I need to say something. And I also, many times, I'm with my son. I have a young son. I want him to see me showing respect to that uniform.
You know, and there's nothing really wrong with that. It's kind of the catch-22 dilemma, because at the same time, for a lot of these guys, they make tremendous sacrifices. They do deserve the praise. Just be aware that for a lot of guys, they feel a little uncomfortable getting it because they don't think of themselves in that light. They enjoy what they do. You know, it's a volunteer army. Everybody chose to do this, so it's kind of that feeling of, hey, I chose this. You don't have to thank me. I'm happy to do it. That's why I'm here. You
got to be feeling good about being home. You and I talked about the first thing that you say when you come home. And if you would hang on, I want to ask you the most difficult part about coming back, you know, in the first week, the first month or so, the things that you find most difficult, just kind of, you know, reassimilating yourself back to Houston. Second Lieutenant Blake Davenport joining us here this morning, just back from Iraq, and we'll get back to Blake in just a moment. KTRH News Time is 7:52. Joining me right now, Second Lieutenant Blake Davenport from Houston. He's been back from Iraq for about a week. Lieutenant, welcome back to Houston's Morning News. And let me ask you this. What is the most difficult thing for you to get used to, I suppose, now that you're back home? First few days, first week or so?
You know, other than just obviously the jet lag from the time difference, it's little things. We just kind of nice to get used to hot showers on a consistent basis, and sleeping in a bed with sheets, not a sleeping bag, and a tent on a cot. And just being out. It's kind of odd to be back in the big city and traffic on the highway, stuff like that. But overall, it's not too bad.
I would assume eating your wife's good cooking has got to be something you've been looking forward to as well.
It is, and you know, the Army does a really good job of feeding us, but it tends to be on a very strict schedule where actually being able to just stretch your legs and get in the kitchen and eat whenever you feel like it is pretty tempting.
Well, it's good to have you back home. Let me ask you this final question, because I think this is very, very interesting. Tell us one thing that we don't know about the people in Iraq, or maybe something that we're misinformed about here in the United States.
Now, I don't know that it's a misinformation, but in our area where we spent most of our time in eastern Iraq, we would go on a pretty regular patrol schedule. And the one thing that always struck us was that, you know, we'd pass by small farmhouses, a pretty rural area. And, you know, the kids would always come out and they'd wave. And we knew the unit before them. It used to throw them candy. And we had a very good relationship with the local populace around our area. And for those kids, they pretty much have now grown up and known about an 8-year experience of really very positive things with American soldiers and with Americans in general. And I think that will work in the long-term advantage of Iraq that, by and large, the American military presence for most of those civilians has been a positive experience for a long duration of time, despite the fact we were there, in really unfortunate circumstances.
Second Lieutenant Blake Davenport is back home, and we're glad that you are, sir. And I just want to, on behalf of all of our listeners and all of us here at KTRH, wish you and your family and the families of all of our returning soldiers a very, very Merry Christmas. Just enjoy the heck out of it, sir.
Thank you very much. I will.
And it's just a pleasure to talk with Lieutenant Davenport. He's a great guy. We've been emailing back and forth and have kind of struck up a friendship, and I look forward to meeting him in person. I know he's got a couple of small kids that are going to be very anxious to be opening up Christmas presents with him come Christmas morning.